The things we're going to be covering tonight is what you need to know before you go. So should you hire or should you purchase? Do you want to ski or board? Which one are you going to do of those? We're going to talk to getting to the mountain, and the best of all is our top tips. Should we talk about should you ski or should you board? Yeah,
it's a bit of a funny one because you either like to go sideways or you don't. So what I was saying to Simone earlier is that most people kind of know when you turn up whether you're going to be snowboarding or skiing. If you've spent time skating or surfing, and you've gotten used to that vibe of going sideways, then definitely start snowboarding, because it's
you'll pick it up faster.
There's so many similarities, aren't there?
Yeah, totally.
And if that's not the case, then try skiing, because skiing is probably a bit easier to pick up at the start because you're standing on things and it's not so balancy. But bottom line is both are super fun, and that's the only reason you're there, right? So either way you go, you're going to have a good time. Certainly boots is the key because of your feet. They're so important when you're going skiing or snowboarding. But yeah, that's definitely the first place to start. Yes, they're probably the most spendy item as well that you need to commit to, but the benefit of having good boots is just it makes or breaks.
Beautiful things right here.
Yeah, absolutely. It makes or breaks the day, really. So getting a good boot fit. Obviously, poles are pretty cheap. Skis and snowboards are a little bit further down the line because you can't really rent good boots, or you can obviously rent good boots, but not always. So yeah, definitely a good idea to start with boots.
And it's all about comfort, and so that's number one.
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah. But then when we talk about hire versus purchase, if you think about it, if it's your first time, it might pay to hire your skis or your board first, just to get a feel for it. But then what are the sort of things that you purchase? What do you reckon, Neil?
Definitely goggles, because I've yet to find a good renter of goggles. They're hard to look after, the lenses get scratched, they're typically cheap ones as well, so it's never going to be a very good experience. And helmet's another one, which obviously you can rent, but it's another thing that isn't super expensive. It's really important to get it matching with your goggles, so that synergy's really important. That'd be another thing that I'd look at buying first as well. And then
go protect your head, very important. And that's the other thing, I suppose, when we talk about things to buy going up the mountain, first time protection is actually really, really important. So if you're going to be boarding, wrist guards are a must-have. Protect those wrists because you're going to be getting up and down quite a lot on your wrists. And the other thing which I only discovered last year myself is the old impact shorts, which I tell you what, they take the impact and they just make you more confident up the mountain. And when you fall down, you can get back up again just that much easier. If you're going to purchase something and have a good time at the mountain, socks are so important. So Neil, tell us why that is.
Yeah, so back when I was learning to ski, I wore Granddad's socks, and they were his tramping socks, and they were woolly, they were really thick, and they did a really poor job of doing anything for skiing. The key thing about ski socks is they really need to be as thin as you can possibly get them, because you need to have your feet working inside those boots really well, and the more there is between you and the boot, the less precision you're going to have and the less comfort you're going to enjoy. So really the key thing is to get the narrowest, the thinnest pair of nice woolly socks that you can get. So here they are, for example. But the other massive no-no is wearing two pairs of socks, because the amount of parents I see do that with kids, they've bought a pair of boots or they've been hand-me-downs from their cousin, and they're a bit big, and Mum says it's okay, we're going to put two pairs of socks on, they'll fit for a season, and it's just the worst thing you can do, because they rub in between each other and they destroy each other actually, and especially when they're wet. So what I recommend is getting a wee space, a volume reducer, which you can put in underneath the footbed, and you can take up the space inside the boot without having them wear two pairs of socks. It doesn't cost very much at all. Yeah. For kids, no, definitely not. It's that they can get by without them. Like I'm talking about little kids, sort of sub 6 years old. Adults, you should have a pole, because you're going to always use poles, and you need to sort of get used to using them, and they help you get around. So when you're learning, you kind of need them to push around and get a bit of momentum, and I definitely think it's a good idea to use poles as an adult. There's heaps. Yeah. There's so many good bags out there. Yeah. Torpedo7 sell heaps. You can put any kind of bladder. You can put a Salomon bladder in there, in any pack. Yeah. But that's actually a really good point. Like especially in some of the bigger mountains where you're traveling a bigger distance, it's quite nice to have a bit of hydration with you. There's heaps of packs out there that do that. Both can be. It can be a thing for both. Skiing is safe because the binding's set up for you knowing that you've got a knee injury. You turn your DINs down a wee bit, so you release out of the binding a little bit sooner.
But the other thing would be knee pads are a must. I can speak from personal experience. I've actually got a knee injury, and I got some of these last year, and they really did help just protecting the knees, especially when you're boarding and you're pushing yourself and you're falling over every now and then.
Yeah, for sure.
Like I do.
Definitely want to be careful though. I mean, it's pretty gnarly, skiing around the mountain with these big long things attached to your feet. Your knees do get a bit of a hammering. It's worthwhile considering definitely a brace. So there's heaps of tech that goes along with goggles. They're pretty technical little product given how small they are. Lens technology is huge. Like you can get varying degrees of quality of lenses, which, I mean, they're all safe. There's certainly nothing to say that a cheap goggle isn't safe, but the clarity that you get in different lights on the mountain, you can get flat light on the snow, which makes it really hard to see the contours, and a really good quality lens can mitigate that and help you see better in lower light conditions. The other thing that you get when you get up the price range with a goggle is normally a second lens. So you'll get a highlight lens and a low light lens for those different kind of days, and you can swap them out however you like. So you're definitely worth spending a bit of money on a good goggle. The other good thing about goggles is with helmets, when you have them matching, they work far better. So you can get different levels of airflow throughout the goggle, which can mean that they defog, or they have less ability to fog when things are getting hot and sweaty under there, or it's snowing, or so you're having that synergy between the goggle and helmet's really important.
Personal preference, really. Like I'm a mitt wearer. That's because I get really cold fingers, and actually the mitts are really good for keeping your hands nice and warm. But gloves, they actually give you more control, I guess. Absolutely.
The key thing about mitts is that they're warmer. So your fingers are all in one unit, and they help warm each other up. When you've got your fingers in gloves with fingers, they obviously are exposed to the elements far more. So definitely, if you've got cold fingers, go for a mitt. Yeah, layers are really important because they have the whole idea about wearing one big jacket and a t-shirt is not going to work, because you're either going to be really hot or you're going to be really cold. By having multiple layers, you can change how much you're wearing and modify your temperature that way, and maintain a good level of temperature throughout the day. The other thing about layers is that when you have a base layer on, in New Zealand it's typically wool at the moment, is they naturally wick moisture away from your body, and it can enable the moisture inside underneath your jacket to evaporate and get out through the breathable fabric of your jacket. So there's a couple of benefits to layering and base layers that are really important. Yeah.
So look, you could go out there straight off the bat and still have a good time, but if you want to have a really awesome time and get up the mountain the second day and still be able to walk, it's advised to do a little bit of core work before, like maybe some yoga or even some squats, just to get the legs, because it's a lot of leg workout that goes on, and especially when you're learning, because you really are quite tense, and so you get quite exhausted by the end of the day. A little tip there though is probably hire a house that's got a spa to soak up at the end of the day. That's the ticket.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, so we were talking about this before, like carpooling is a massive thing these days. Like, make sure you take as many people in your car up the mountain as possible, because there are some rules now in some mountains where they won't actually let you up the mountain unless your car's got a certain amount of people.
Yeah, that's right. It's and the other thing is, it's pretty gnarly when you've got 1,500 people all traveling in their own car, like without carpooling or picking up hitchhikers. It's just not very good practice up on the mountain. So the idea is that you should do your research, you find out where you're going to go, you check the weather report. Obviously that's really important, because the snow might be coming in and it might not suit your vehicle to be up there, or your driver ability. I recommend going midweek if you can, for sure, because mountains are getting so busy, especially the big guys, and the more you can ski midweek, the less pressure it puts on the weekends for everyone else. So and also, like, it's cheaper as well in a lot of mountains, so there's a double win all around really if you go midweek.
I kind of think if you're gonna do it, you might as well go down for a week, right, to get the feel for it, because let's face it, the winter season is quite short and sharp. You've only got a certain amount of time, so if you're gonna do it, do a whole week, get a feel for it, because especially if you're first time, if you're just going for one day, you might not quite find your feet, but the second day you might be, yes, I'm starting to get the hang of this
Absolutely.
Thing. This is wicked.
Yeah. You typically, like, you will be skiing or snowboarding pretty well by day 3.
Yeah.
And you'll be having a lot of fun turning both ways, knowing how to stop, and really starting to put some speed on and getting a bit of confidence. Yeah. There's plenty of them out there. Try and get a New Zealand one that's specific to New Zealand. Obviously, it's going to be a little bit more up to date and accurate.
Or just the Ski Field's website. They're always, they'll tell you if it's open or not, what the weather's looking
and you'll
like.
get good at it. Like when you start getting to know, when it starts to become interesting to you, when you're actually planning to go up the mountain a lot, or once a week or whatever, you'll start getting to know your weather. You'll start looking at the charts, knowing what that means, and knowing how much wind or snow to expect. It's part of skiing and snowboarding as well, just knowing a bit about that meteorological part of the sport.
Like if you get up there super early, and you know, one of the things that everyone strives for is actually getting the first runs of the day, right? When the snow's it's all been groomed, it's all looking pristine. So that's going to vary depending on which mountain you go to, what time you need to get up there early. But obviously the midweek is going to be less busy.
The springtime's a good time to learn. It's nice and warm.
Yeah.
Snow's soft, and it's because it's a bit softer and a bit wetter, it's a bit slower.
Yeah.
So you don't necessarily go so fast, and it's a bit easier to control your speed.
So yeah, there's blue trails, there's green trails, and there's black trails in the mountain. And if it's your first time out, definitely stick to the green trails. And the other thing we'd really recommend is getting a lesson first up. It's not like mandatory, but trust me, you'll have a much better time. You could always go up and have a try in the morning, and if you're finding it a little bit tricky, then get a lesson in the afternoon. But you will really progress a lot quicker if you get a lesson. It's really, really invaluable. Even when you get to an intermediate level and you want to progress to advanced, getting that lesson just gives you the confidence and knowledge. And you know,
100%. It's the best way to get yourself from not knowing anything to being reasonably proficient in the space of 3 hours. Like the $100 you spend or whatever it is, $150, it's definitely worth it if you want to just get going, because you can muck around on the lunar slope for ages without progressing if you don't get a lesson. So definitely recommend it. The other thing about ski safety is like skiing within your limits, knowing where you should and shouldn't ski. When you're skiing, knowing where to stop, stopping beneath a big rollover where people are flying down at high speed, not being able to see where they're going, is not a very smart place to stop. And basically, ski safety comes down to a lot of common sense. Yes, there's heaps of signs you can read, but be aware that people are there of varying abilities, and some people are going really fast and some are not. And where you park yourself up is a pretty important place to, it's an important thing to think about. Kids snowboarding is an interesting one because you kind of need momentum to get the board to turn. You're gonna have, the best thing for him to do is to spend the day with them, getting them confidently moving them around and not letting them necessarily fall over all the time. Spending quality time actually nursing them through the corners and getting them confidently moving from one direction to the other is really key. Like you definitely don't want to let them just fall over and fall over and fall over all day, because they'll end the day and just hate it.
Just towing them around, there's products that we sell that you can attach to your board, could wriggle it, that can tow people around, or even just a ski pole you can like pull people around on, pull the kids around. Just
setting them up for success is the key. You want to make sure that they don't.
And
they have to have a good time. A lesson is key. The snowboard instructors just know how to do that.
And let's face it, kids don't listen to their parents, so I'd highly recommend a lesson. I wouldn't suggest that if you're a learner, like tobogganing, and we've got these other super cool inflatable tubes this year, which is super cool, super fun. So great way to go and enjoy the snow with your family. One of my top tips to always take up the mountain with you is a lip balm. It gets really dry up there, even an overcast day. You're going to want to keep applying that and make sure you don't get burnt lips. And in conjunction with that, obviously, sunscreen, number one.
The goggle gap's an important one, because that gets most people, which is it's a thing that most people when they start out get, is the big gap between your goggle and your helmet, or your goggle and your beanie, depending on what you're wearing. And it's just a dead giveaway that you're a beginner.
What about the one that I love when you learn to ski? It's like, what is it? Pizza
and fries?
Pizza and fries, that's the one.
Yeah.
So when you learn to ski, you're basically skiing with your toes pointed like that, which is like a pizza piece, and then it's fries. Yeah.
The other things you need to know are like on-piste and off-piste.
Yes.
On-piste is where they have groomed trails, where they have these big machines that groom everything perfectly and make it really nice to ski on, and that's what they call on-piste.
Not off-piste at the pub.
Yeah. And then off-piste is obviously not that, where that isn't groomed, and it's often variable, and you need different skis and things to ski it, or you need to have a little bit of skill to be able to do that. So kind of skiing off-piste is typically a bit harder. Tbars are classic. The key about Tbars is to stand up, because most people get on there and they think that they sit down, but in actual fact you just stand there. It's the easiest thing in the world to do. You just put it behind your butt, you wait till you obviously put your weight back a wee bit, and you just wait till it engages and it just pulls you up. And the most common thing that most people get wrong is they don't stand up, they sit down.
Yeah.
They're actually a really nice way to get up the mountain. One of my biggest tidbits is to be the yes guy. It's so easy to say no.
Yeah.
Like you got to wake up early. It's cold. You might have had a late night. But if you get up there and make the decision to actually get in the car with your mates, get up the mountain and have a go,
Just commit.
you'll never regret it. You'll always just leave the mountain going, man, that was good. I'm so glad I got up and did that.
I just wanted to thank everyone for tuning in and hearing all about what you need to do and need to know for your first time to the snow.
Yeah, thanks so much for joining us, everybody. It was super fun, and we'll see you all out there.